The truth is, over the years, I keep doing it. And the fact that I keep going back to it means that I actually care.
Guido, you have a quote on your Facebook. I think it was from an interview that you did. And the quote begins with, "Make sure you want it."
Yes.
I'm wondering, can I continue? I'll let you know more of what you said here if you want me to remind you. So it's trust your own talent and the singularity of your own voice. Be careful who you listen to. And if this is what you want, don't get easily discouraged. What does that mean? Make sure you want it. That's fascinating.
Yeah, so I know a lot of talented people, talented writers, talented artists in general, but talent is only a part of the equation, I feel like. And in this medium, it's so competitive and so tough, and it's so hard to get people to care. Your talent can only get you so far. It's important. By the way, you don't have to be talented. I feel like persistence, and I'm not saying anything new here, but persistence is so much more important, or as important as talent. So creativity, I feel like you can develop it, right? You don't have to be born creative. You can nurture it. But there's a part of you that has to hustle. So you can't fake it if you don't want it. And this applies to actors, directors, writers. People can tell if you desire it. And if you don't, that's totally fine. And I'm not going to tell people what line of work they should be in, but you can sense when someone really wants to tell a story, when someone wants to, because writing is not necessarily easy. It's whoever tells you writing is easy, I suspect that statement. I'm not saying it's the hardest thing. They're hardest jobs for sure, but there's something about writing that's exhausting because it involves an emotional introspection, trying to figure out who you are, what do you want to talk about, what resonates with you, what resonates with other people. So it is draining. That's why I can only write a certain amount of pages a day because I want to write something that's truthful. And writing truthful pages takes a lot of energy, a lot of thought, a lot of asking questions, a lot of doubt. That's why I didn't mean that quote to be daunting. What I mean is, if you really want to do this, then no one can stop you. Just, there can be failure along the way. There can be many frustrations. I mean, daily. Every writer will know this, Some days you just write great pages. Some days it doesn't work. Some days you write bad. Or bad pages, or you get rejections, or you get awful notes. Notes that you don't know what to do with. Like, how am I going to apply this note? And it's a job. You can't say no, right? So what I meant is, if the desire is there, if the flame is within you, then you got the most important thing.
How should someone, quote unquote, check themselves to know if they really want it? Because I think we all think we want certain things, and then once we go through the process day in and day out, then it becomes clear to us what it actually is.
Yeah, it's a good question. So I don't intend to be a guru of any sorts, and sometimes the line is a bit blurry between like self-help and but it is a very intimate thing. To me at least, writing is a very intimate thing, very personal thing. Even if I'm not writing about my own life, which I rarely do, it is incredibly personal. I care about it, and there are moments of doubt. Of course, there were moments. And there are still moments when I wonder, is this the best way to channel my abilities, my skills, my talent? The truth is, over the years, I keep doing it. And the fact that I keep going back to it means that I actually care. That to me is the best evidence that I am a writer. This is not a hobby. This is not something that I'm good at. I mean, I'm good at certain things that I don't necessarily spend time on. I don't know. I guess I could have been a good lawyer. I've thought about this many times. I would have certainly made more money. I would have been more stable. My dad would have been delighted. But that's not how it went. There's a creative energy. There's a need to express yourself through stories. Because, I've been a film critic for 10 years before actually becoming a screenwriter. And, that's a long story, how I became a film critic. I don't think any child, any 8, 10-year-old child says, I want to become a film critic, right? But it happened, and I'm glad it did. But, being a journalist or writing a film analysis, which I did, that's a whole different approach. It's still writing, but it's not it is creative, but it's not the same way to apply your emotion, your brain. It's very different. So at some point I had to question myself, do I want to analyze a film that's already made and out there, someone else's work, or do I want to produce my own work? And that takes courage, and that takes facing your fears and limitations, and it's really hard to write a script.
If you were an attorney presenting your own case, so you were employed by Guido Segal, and you were speaking to the jury about why Guido should continue on this path. So, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I present to you my client, and he really wants this. He's not sure if it'll ever pan out, or I don't know. What would the argument be? How would you convince 12 jurors with their arms crossed that?
I guess what I would say is I like a good challenge, and this is the most challenging and exciting thing that I've found. I don't know if I could have been a doctor in the sense that I couldn't do the same thing over and over and over again. And with writing, it's always new. No script or play, I guess, or novel, they're never the same. So with practice, you get better at it, but every new story you face or you have to break down poses new challenges. And that to me is very exciting.
So persistence, we're going back to what you said originally, that talent necessarily, it's not always in the equation, it's persistence.
Yeah, and especially in a city like LA, there's so many talented people. And I don't say this, lightly. I've met so many talented writers that come from all over the country, all over the world. And they're here for a reason. But to make it here, I don't want to be the one saying what it means to make it. I would say to get a job or to have several jobs that just to be paid to write means a lot. I want to be very realistic. Of course, you need a dream. We all have one or many dreams, but I think my goal is to be paid to write. And that to me is the dream. Maybe I've become older and jaded and more realistic, but it's so hard to get paid to write, to get paid to be an artist, a creative. So you have to constantly negotiate with what the industry wants and the standards and what you want. And it's not necessarily the same. Of course, when you get to a certain point in your career that you're in control, you can decide. But still, I remember I met Paul Feig, right? Who wrote and directed Bridesmaids, among Ghostbusters, among many other things. And I asked him, Paul, when is the right time to do your passion project? And he said, never. Never is the right time. And you just do it if you want, but know that it's risky.
When you were in grade school or as a teenager, were you bored in school?
No, I actually, I was a nerd. I wasn't a troublemaker. I actually loved school. I know that's not a common thing to say, but I loved learning. I loved history. I did okay with math and physics and chemistry, all those subjects, but literature, history, later on philosophy, I connected to all that. And I've always loved reading. I guess when I decided to be a filmmaker, and I still dream about directing. I don't think I'm a director by nature, because I love words. I work with words, and that's why, since I love films and I love literature, I'm a writer. And it makes so much sense for me to be a screenwriter. But no, I actually loved school and grad school and college.
Was the passion project ever the right time? Did you find time to make yours, or it's still in the works?
Well, I have a TV show that I've developed, that I've written the pilot, and it's been in development for 3 years. And it's period. And again, I don't make it easy on myself. It's an expensive show. It's period. It's about the 60s. A
In
lot
Chicago? Sorry to interrupt.
well, by the way, this is the thing. I didn't set out to be a period writer, but I guess it resonates with me. So I wrote one show that takes place in the late 60s in Chicago. That I don't think that's going to happen, by the way, because they're going to make the movie. I think it's about the young lords, and of course, me not being Puerto Rican doesn't help. I met some of those historical figures. I interviewed them. It was really interesting, but sometimes some things don't pan out, and you just let them go, and that's this show, no, the show takes place mostly in Boston in the 60s. It's about psychedelics. And you just got to be patient. I've written that script so many times and rewritten it. And, it takes time and money and getting people attached.
This is about Timothy Leary?
Yes, it is.
Okay. As growing up in San Francisco, knew his name a lot, and I was around.
Yeah, so that's... I adapted this author who now became my friend, Robert Greenfield. And Bob wrote about all these figures in the 60s, like, the Grateful Dead, Jerry Garcia and the Grateful Dead, Timothy Leary. So I adapted Bob and we became friends, and he's like a mentor to me now. So that script opened up other doors to writing about, the 60s and rock and roll and psychedelics, and I clearly connect, even though I wasn't born around that time, I connect to that.
I felt the same way, even though I'm a Gen Xer, so yeah, but there was something about being there and just seeing just the counterculture movement that was very attractive. And
Yeah. What I suspect, or what I feel at least, is that we have an idea of those times and a feeling that there was a dream of how society could have been, and then it didn't work out. But for a few years, it felt like America at least could become a place where there was a certain amount of freedom, and people were against the Vietnam War, and expansion of consciousness, and I feel like a lot of what's happening today is still is the effect of those days. Like we're going back to some of the ideas and theories back in the day. I'm seduced by the idea of a different society where everyone's welcome, and you have a certain amount of freedom to do what you do as long as you don't hurt other people. I guess that's why I go back to the 60s, or my idea of the 60s.
And is that one of the reasons you say you don't make it easy on yourself in that doing the time, in terms of costumes and cars and getting the rights to music and things like that would be a lot?
Certainly. I mean, period by itself, you can see producers get scared. Because if it's a TV show, we're talking about at least a $2 million episode in a 10-episode season. At least, I'm saying, right? So it's costumes, it's cars. If it's based on real people, it's having the IP, which I do, but it's more challenging. So I get this note or this comment constantly, which is, why don't you write something contemporary based on your own story? And I usually reply to this, there is a lot of me in what you read. The fact that it's not autobiographical doesn't mean it's not incredibly personal. I mean, I have been trying. This is the thing. I mean, everyone has their own approach. I don't like to write about myself explicitly. I don't feel like it's necessary. But everyone's free to do whatever they feel. I mean, sure. I mean, I incorporate parts of my life and anecdotes into my writing, but I give it to someone else. And then that's my approach.